Good morning, or afternoon in most cases. Got a new setup for you guys. Basically just rotated my desk and did not have enough time to complete moving the rest of the set. So that's what we've got this morning. I want to say hello to Robert William Griffith and everybody else out there in chat. Let me switch views here so I can see that. How's everybody doing this morning? If you'd drop a note in chat with what kind of weather you're looking at today. All right. It looks like Omar will be joining us a little later today. And let's see what we've got here. All right, so we've got... Oh, Eddie, I'd actually like to get you on stream, Eddie. We've got a couple of items that are right up your alley. I'm going to send you a link here real quick. Bear with me, guys. And a little bit of dead air, I'm sorry about that. And I looked to see if Eddie was online earlier today and I didn't see a dot, so I didn't send a message. There we go. So, brought together a couple of items to discuss today I thought were pretty cool. One is the Cybertruck was seen at Terra, Texas, which would be Gigafactory, Texas. And let me pull a picture of that and share it on stream here. It was all over Twitter, and Tesla themselves shared it. That was pretty cool. And so I'm just going to screen share our friends at Teslarati here. As soon as I clear the screen, share a window. There we go. So I thought this was really cool to see the truck in its natural habitat. It's all in the dirt, being a contractor special. Let's see if we can't load these up. Yeah, there we go. It's not too small, okay. They don't have a viewer like some of the other sites do where you can scroll through to the next one. But there's also some short videos. I thought it was really neat to see. That is basically the same truck that we saw at the Peterson Museum, where it's got instead of the marble paper dash, it just is just plain white, and it still didn't have mirrors, which I hope it doesn't have the mirrors. Everybody else noticed it didn't have the wipers still, so I don't know if they have a solution that they're going to be doing that doesn't need wipers. And it appeared that the folks that were over there doing the construction, they were enthralled with the vehicle. There were lots of people taking pictures and making videos. Let me, we'll leave that up. And so, oh, they're most popular. The Tesla charge port or trunk Easter egg, depending on which vehicle you're running. I thought it was crass, but what can we say? Third grade humor, right? They love it. So anyway, the Cybertruck, let me uncover the chat so I can see it. Oh, Eddie says you can't do it from the tablet. Eddie, it should work from your phone as well. Oh, look at that. Good job, James. All right, so yeah, so with the Cybertruck, I think it's quite awesome to see what they've got going on, and it's exciting to see it off-road for once, because everything we've seen so far has been it going to galas, being in the museum, and I mean stuff that any car could do, but to see it be a truck was nice. Wanted to save some of the stuff for when we've got discussion. And what do y'all think of the boring tunnel updates? I've got a lot of people complaining that it's not a train. It's a private situation. There's just doesn't have to be a train if they don't want it to be a train. And everybody thinks they're so smart about it. I mean, I understand the trains have worked for hundreds of years, but just because something has always worked doesn't mean that you can't try something new. And it's the way they present it. Like, oh yeah, why don't you just put rails in it and then put cars? It's like, you don't have to be sarcastic about it. And to think that they didn't think of a train is, I mean, I get that I get where they're coming from, but just because it's worked doesn't mean that you can't try something new. So this has several advantages over a subway if it works the way they say it will. And again, with it being private industry, private money, they can try with their money what they want to do. So with a train, you have to go, if you've got 10 stops and you want to go and stop 1 and go to stop 10, you have to wait for it to go through all the stops until you get to where you're going. And then once it gets to your stop, then you can get off. But if you didn't need to stop at stops 2 through 9, you've kind of wasted that time. Except that, since you're going on a straight path, you actually get to avoid traffic. But then you also have the situation where you're in a crowd. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. I dropped out there. With having to skip each stop, you end up where you can save some time, because if you're in a car by yourself, or several people who are going where you're going, you all get in and you go straight to where you're going. Go. Don't or like in Monopoly, go straight to jail. So you end up where, say you're behind somebody who's got a lot of luggage, for instance. You don't have to wait on them to load and unload, especially if they're not going where you're already going. And the other situation I saw with it, where some folks were complaining, is that the emergency exits. If the only one I think would have trouble, and Elon's already said that they're going to redesign it, would be the Cybertruck, because the Cybertruck barely fits in the tunnel. So if it barely fits, one can imagine that the doors might not open to allow you to escape. I don't imagine that they were able to design something that didn't have any safety functionality in 2020, 2021, 2019. That, I mean, just because we're not seeing it in pictures, there are a lot of tunnels I go in where you don't always see the handrails and the exit doors. I mean, you'll see them more often than not, but not necessarily the whole way through. And a lot of the complaints were revolved around the fact that it's a one-way tunnel. One lane, one way. They said, well, what if the car breaks down? Well, for one, these cars don't break down as often as your 30-year-old jalopy. And two, you can just send a tow truck in and go the other way. And since these are supposed to be driven autonomously, the machines can take turns going through the remaining tunnels. And I'm suspecting that maybe by the time they have their first breakdown, maybe the other tunnels will be done. As far as Elon always says, just put more tunnels when you need more capacity, because you're in 3D space rather than on the surface of the Earth. So what I'm thinking might happen with the tow trucks, because somebody mentioned, well, what if they have to back all the way in to go do their business, or back all the way out? There's a couple ways they could handle that. They could put a towing apparatus on the front of the truck as well as the back, and then they just go in whatever way is comfortable to them. Or you could send in an autonomous car and then command it back out as well. You can go in with tow dollies and a foot jack or something, and just go in, jack up the car, shove the tow dollies underneath. What the tow dollies are, for those who aren't familiar, are you sometimes see them on the tow trucks with the hook on the back. You'll see the little wheels, the little rubber wheels. Those are actually tow dollies that come off, and you can put them underneath whatever wheel is disabled when you're towing the vehicle. Or in the case of a Tesla, where you've got the what's up, Elijah? Where you've got the ability to tow a car like a Tesla or some other car that can't flat tow. You can use the tow dollies to pick up the remaining wheels and then pull it behind you, so you don't have to send a flatbed all the time, which is cool. And then the other part of it was the fares. So the fares for the non-Vegas loop, well, I guess it's still a Vegas loop, the non-convention center loop, there we go, because the convention center should be free per their contract. The fares came out to be about half the price of a corresponding Uber or Lyft. And I thought that was pretty neat because if it works out the way they're saying, you're going to get there faster and less stressed. So it'll be worth the price. Somebody else responded to me that, oh, it must be rich to think that everybody can afford an Uber. Dan says I got to warn people about them. Every week at 12 or 1. Just after, actually, because I don't like to hit it right at the 0. They were complaining that not everybody can afford an Uber or Lyft. And yes, this is true. But my response was, what about folks that are going to these places? They would generally have a little bit of pocket change unless they're the workers. And if they're the workers, I would hope that the place would pay them enough that they can afford to get to and from the business. Because if they're not paying enough to actually have people arrive at work, then why why even bother? Actually, James is talking about for towing the Autobots. Actually, James, if you've got a moment, I'd like to get you on to talk about towing before I move on to the next topic. Let me send you an invite here. Let's see. I'm going to reach him via this window. All right, we'll see if he has time to join us, either from his PC or his phone. Oops, I just closed that. I shouldn't have closed that. There we go. All right, I'm back. Right, exactly. I mean, we're seeing basically they do like they always do, where they don't show us the whole picture before it's gone live. And there's so much we don't know about this for people to be passing judgment already. I mean, I understand if you just look at it at first glance, or if you open the tin, there are some parts that look like they could use some more fleshing out. But this isn't a series of companies that just take forever to make their decisions. So if they see a pain point, they're going to go in and they're going to address it, and they're going to make adjustments until it's right. So I don't see why people are getting so bent out of shape over this, because it's not like they used taxpayer money. If they did, that would be understandable, that, hey, you know, you're using something new instead of something proven. Good evening, Anders. How's the weather out there? We're talking right now about the Boring Company loops, and we've got a couple other things coming up after that. But since we were talking about towing, I was hoping that James could join us to talk about how towing in the tunnel might work from the outside looking in, as somebody experienced with it. There he is. From the outside looking in, as somebody experienced with it. All right, there he is. I'll put him looking in, as somebody experienced with it.
I guess I have to close. There.
There we go.
Cut us a light.
Almost.
How's it going?
It's going great.
That's going good.
Yep. So how would towing work with the Boring Company when you're coming in on one lane, basically? You come up behind and come up in front of it, right?
Well, yeah, you're right. So you have both ends of the tunnel, right? And you could have cars behind you. You won't have necessarily cars in front of you if you stop. Well, there's pretty much two major things that are going to happen. One is a flat tire, and two is just a breakdown for whatever reason, a shutdown. Well, for the flat tire, what's being designed is, we affectionately call them Autobots, and we saved the domain name for Tesla, Autobots. Picture a miniature Cybertruck with no top. automated, that can just go directly to a flat tire, and the car can continue on with can continue on that way. So yes, it would lock up a tire, depending on which propulsion system it is, or it can take all 4 tires and just take the car completely. Another aspect is another Autobot design is just taking the whole car completely, but from underneath, like those low profile sneaker. You see the tow trucks that steal cars, but the whole Autobot would be that low. So it's like a battery pack with 4 wheel snatchers on it. And it would just, so if you stall at the end and you're literally blocking everybody in, well, the quickest way would be from the end to go in. But if it's near the beginning and you're still blocking everybody from going in, well, instead of backing in all the way, because right now there's no tow truck that can go in a boring tunnel because there's no electric tow trucks that exist. So you can't have a gas or diesel engine running inside in a boring tunnel. There is ventilation, but still, it's not what will be preferred. But the other aspect, the ones that go underneath, they would just go, and since all Teslas have the lift spots on them, it either can lift it up there or it can lift it from the tire. So it's kind of like a miniature, what do you call those, skyjacks? But it's like a battery pack with four things that'll just lift it up and it'll just go with traffic. So the goal is to have the minimum amount of time if a vehicle stops. And these can be literally have one at each end of each tunnel and can be dispatched out. And Tesla already has the software, the full self-driving. So it's kind of like having the flattest Tesla in the world. And it would be completely automated because, there's even a way of doing it that I'm looking into. The best way is even if Autopilot comes off, someone managed to flip. Well, they won't flip I really doubt they'll flip the Model X, but if they manage to flip one of the cars, well, it can still get taken out autonomously. There's just cleanup. It'd be kind of a lot like you see in that movie WALL-E when they fall off the chair. It'd kind of like that. It seems futuristic and crazy, but that's crazy is where it's going. So it'll just fit in perfectly. And the name is fitting, Autobots. Because well, being in the tunnel, working in a tunnel is not one place you really like being out of. Especially sound is amplified. It's if you're claustrophobic, getting out of the car is going to not be fun. But I've worked in tunnels before, and it's just different. It's different.
So have you done tunnels that you gotta put a headphone in. It's echoing. So I'm gonna mute you while I talk. So have you done tunnels that have single lane, or have they all been at least 2 lanes, or what's the deal there?
No, they've been triple lanes, but they're come down to single lanes. Sometimes when they're working on them, and then you have a breakdown with 1 lane, because usually a lot of times when they work on 1 lane, they'll close down 2 for safety, and they'll just have 1 lane, and then you'll get a truck that'll break down. In those instances, depending on where it is in the tunnel, either the crews will let us in to where it's been shut down, but then that's not always the quickest way because you have to dismantle their security and go through whatever's going on. Sometimes we just back right down. The thing with tow truck operators, the ones who are experienced, driving forward or driving backwards, there's no actual difference. There's, once you get enough experience, it's literally like that movie with, what's his name there, Mater. Driving backwards becomes second nature because you sometimes get stuck doing several kilometers driving backwards, and after a while, it's just a matter of experience,
Yeah.
So sometimes, we have to back in, or sometimes even vehicles will break down at the beginning but have a problem with the rear end, and we have to go in backwards to go get the vehicle lifted out there. And sometimes, certain instances you have a truck. If a trailer sometimes has a problem, it has to be lifted completely off the ground. You could have a truck hooking up from behind, backwards, and one in front, and then you drive together, which is kind of special too. It's
team lift.
Yeah, it seems it's pretty sketchy when you're doing it there at first there, but you really have to teamwork. And if you have this, the point that we gotta have to do is have two drivers equally skilled, because well, you'll put the less skilled in front, but even then, it's you have to watch what you're doing.
Yeah.
But that's what I think. That's what I'm heading on toward the tunnel, because this stuff has to be done, and so these ideas are going to be proposed, and the point is to get everybody out of there as quick as possible, and without having to break down. Tesla already solved one of the problems for the car industry by not having a spare. Because people think it was a bad idea, but it was actually one of the smartest ideas a car company can do, safety, because every year people are getting out, changing their flat on the highway, and they get killed. And a dead customer is not a repeat customer. So you'll never hear a Tesla owner. Yeah, you'll never hear about a Tesla owner getting hit and killed because they're changing their flat on the side of the highway. They don't mess around. It's we tow it off the highway and we'll do it somewhere safe.
Yeah. So with the like you mentioned with the backing, my grandfather, when it was time for me to learn to drive, the very first thing he did was he made me. He got in the car. I got in the car. He took us to a nice long country road in between all the farms, and then he switched seats with me, and then he said, "All right, we're gonna back up until I'm happy." And we went for 6 miles. 6 miles until he was happy.
Oh, it's doable. It's practice. Eh? Anything you do more than 3 times starts to become a little more second nature. So it's practice. Sometimes we're backing up a tractor trailer with 2 trailers. Tractor trailer. So you have the tractor and the trailer. So you have 2 pivot points, and that's special too. But there's a way to do it, and I think the boring company is going to be. Once it starts taking off, I think it's going to go crazy. I don't think they're going to be able to. They're going to have so much time building more boring tunnel machines that they're going to be booked. They're going to be pre-booked to several years in, because I know Montreal here, the arteries are pretty jammed every day. It's like clockwork, and COVID is maybe a bit of leeway there. Traffic's the algorithm has changed a bit, but it's pretty bad, and there's no way to expand on it right now, and that would be the best way to do it. It would be it'd be welcomed here. Especially Montreal, Tesla. There's more and more electric cars. You can't go for a drive now without at least seeing. I've watched it grow. Before you'd see one once in a while, once every few days. Now you see like 10 every day, just on a short drive there.
Yeah.
It's literally an invasion. It's cool. It's like a good invasion. The Martians have landed and they're taking over, and it's good. Our Martian leader's name is Elon, but we don't want to tell him where he comes from.
So I'm picturing the Autobot to be something like the Octograbber combined with their crash test accelerator, where it's basically just the battery and the wheels, and then, like you said, the grabber accessories. So that actually sounds like something they could put together in just a few weeks, and they may have already done it.
Yeah. Well, so you can have the auto grabber where you actually grab on the wheels and doesn't touch anything, or since all the model Teslas have their lift spots, those round little holes, and they're just not exactly in the same spot. So another way is just after the battery pack around the 8 corners is that they just readjust for some Model S. Well, the cameras will see it, and it'll literally just go into the holes and then lift out like that. And since the roads are, they're smooth. It's not like Montreal roads or bump and all that. You don't even have to worry about it being bumped out of the jack point. That's the problem with auto loaders is someone has to, because people didn't properly load or didn't do stuff right. The over bumps and stuff like that, it came out, and now the guys have to get out and put a strap for safety, which is actually causes more danger, because now you have someone standing there on the side of the highway longer doing safety reasons, causing more danger.
Mm-hmm. So, like with the Autograbber right now, I'm talking there is they actually have a flat device that comes out after each rocket lands on the drone ship, and they actually have two designs because you have the center core for Falcon Heavy, and you've got a regular Falcon 9, and so it's got to adjust as it comes out. So it's the same concept.
Same concept, yeah. Except, like I said, the name will be different.
Yeah.
But yeah, so no, that's yeah, it's pretty much like that. It's not a bad fix either, and because most Teslas are, it's all-wheel drive or that they can even have it where they have different types, and if it's the only problem I see with that is if people have a modified Tesla and have it extra low and they don't have able to adjust the height on it, which I think all the Teslas are going to have air ride later on, so I think they're all going to be adjustable. The Cybertruck, that you can put it up to 18 inches, so I mean anything can go underneath that.
Yeah.
I think it's the Model 3 that's the lowest, right?
The Model
No. Model S.
Yeah, because the Model S and Model X can hit very low.
Yeah,
unless somebody's put airbags in the Model 3.
Yeah. Yeah, so Model S, we can change it, but then we'd have to take worst case scenario and say that there's a problem with the air system and it's down to the bottom, so it needs to get that low. There's another way it can be done too that I just find it more complicated, but is one of the proposed or looked into ideas is from the side. You have they just come out, the Autobots would be separate. There'd be two of them and they come up from each side. But I find that's could be more complicated to make, and kind of leaning less. I can see some problems where there could be, but I think there's more optimization from having something that comes from the back, from completely underneath would be best. Second best is front and back retrievers. If the battery pack or some reason they can't make it go that low, which I doubt, especially with the new batteries, they can literally be rolled on the side, so there's and then there's from the side. From the side is my least option. Well, there could always be a railing from the top that just grabs it and comes and picks the four wheels, but then you're talking that's a lot of material hardware going through the top of the tunnels and the support of it and that, so I don't see it going that way. But the Autobots, like you said, the Autograbber and that, it's mostly going to go that way there. And automation, there's no point in having humans step out in the tunnel. And even for cleanup, like I said, one of the designs we're doing is miniature Cybertrucks. They can just scoop up the stuff, and they already exist in a way. I mean, you can literally order a remote control one. You just have to put the full self-driving in it.
Yeah. What about the theory about the tow dollies?
Pardon me?
The tow dollies?
Yeah. Well, it'd be similar like that. It's pretty similar like that. But tow dollies can be automated too. That's what it is. So the wheels can be on the outside that are big enough like that, a battery pack, and just scoop it up that way, which will give you faster speed in a way, but you're in retrieval, so you don't. You can still get some speed out of the. I would like to personally know about the Autograbber, how fast that thing goes.
Yeah.
But I mean, with electric engines going, I mean, you can ramp up even if it's a 3-inch tire. It can still ramp up some serious RPMs. Yeah. So.
I think the slowest it picks itself up, and that's just because they're being cheap. I want to say it's like 30 seconds.
Okay.
From lowest to highest.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, but
they can go faster.
It's funny, but that's what seems a lot of people's concern is breakdowns and stuff like that. But something you have to. We're not talking about gas cars also. I mean, Teslas break down less than gas cars. And gas cars
are allowed in the tunnel.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's why even, that the whole hydrogen thing, I'm really, I'm not crazy about that. I'm like, well, if you even got that hydrogen pickup and went electric, I don't think you're going to be having just to give you an example, your barbecue that container there in Montreal, the tunnel, which is a pretty big tunnel, you can't have more than 2 of those containers to go through the tunnel. Anything bigger than that, you have to go around, take the bridge, or go some other way. So, and that's there's not that much pressure compared to the hydrogen. Hydrogen is like no one would put in a tunnel. It's like that would be the craziest thing, It's like that would be literally the worst experiment ever,
Yeah.
Combined space like that, you'd have Teslas flying out at each end. It would literally be a gun. It'd be like the biggest gun ever.
So, I mean, I was saying that I don't think that it's possible that they would have designed something like this in the modern era with no safety. Just because we don't see it in any of the 10-second videos that have been released, that they would have overlooked safety, being that safety is one of their core design philosophies before fuel economy, before green car, before any of that. They start with a safe car.
Yeah, well, that's it. So it's gonna. I'm sure it's addressed. Like I said, I brought it up in the video that's coming out there soon that we talked. It's by the way, I finished late last night. They're all done.
Awesome.
It's gonna be published for the Tuesday, hopefully. I literally just have to email the link to Andre and then to the Tesla team. I'm gonna send him, his personal email and then to the Tesla AI team so they can see that too.
And where can they check it out?
Well, I'm gonna wait. We'll wait. It'll be on Clean Technica on Tuesday, on Twitter. But
awesome. So
the YouTube link is I'll let them have it come out on their. Or I can send it to you privately there for now.
Yeah, I'll take a look. But I'm saying for everybody else to see as well.
On Clean Technica, it's before 20 with Elon. The best part, will Tesla recognize E-mode? So
there you go.
There's a really good chance. I mean, less tickets, more investment, for Tesla, for Tesla owners. So
absolutely.
I guess we'll see. If he says no, I'll just chalk it up to him having a bad day. He's loud.
Bring it up again later.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, so next let's talk about the button. So Elon talked about the full self-driving beta. He said that it's doing better than ever, and that they for sure are going to remove radar, and that we won't see it again until next month at the earliest. So that was a little disappointing for those of us who've been waiting on it. And yes, it's for safety, but at the same time, so many features on this car are actually just fully beta, like Smart Summon and stoplight control beta and others. And as somebody who is pretty responsible, I'm chomping at the bit. But I understand that there are some folks out there who are not as responsible. So what does everybody think about the wait for the button?
Well, personally, I think it's always worth the wait with Tesla, And Elon time is like Mars time, so plus some sort of add-on factor there. But speaking of wait, I'm gonna have to go because my girlfriend's waiting for me. So
certainly, thanks for joining us.
I want to survive.
Yes.
But I'll send you the I'll send you the link as soon as it comes out, or I'm sure you'll see it on Twitter on Clean Technica. Hopefully, it comes out Tuesday or Wednesday. Either or.
Hopefully so.
All right.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for the perspective.
Not a problem, and we'll do a follow-up once we get news, if we get a response.
Sounds great. Catch you.
Bye, buddy.
Okay, so speaking of the button, after thinking back to some of the folks I've seen that abuse current Autopilot, AP1 and AP 2.5, basic Autopilot, enhanced Autopilot, full self-driving package, I can see why they would be concerned about having folks abuse the system. And if they had gone back to what they said initially with the safest drivers, that wouldn't really be a concern. But at the same time, in a month, it being safe enough that even those people can't mess it up, that'll be interesting to see. But I'm going to be hitting that button and ready to go. But then there are situations where the current system has some troubles. I've been testing out 2021.4.15, and it's not the only one to do this. You've seen a couple of my deep dive videos where the flashing yellow traffic lights for the fire station around the corner here, they trip up the car. And there are some updates where it does a decent job if you acknowledge that the light's there and it'll just go through. And others where no matter how many times I hit it, the car wants to stop in the middle of the road, or at least severely lower the speed. This release is one of the ones where it wants to stop. So you can actually see in my video coming out where the car stops in the middle of the highway. The light is green. Well, the other lights are green. That light's flashing. And the car has stopped at what would be the stop bar for the fire trucks to come out. And it's not red. It's not any sort of indicator that there should be a stop. It's just a caution that, hey, a fire truck may blast out of here at any time. But it got worse than that. I was going to Ocean City with my wife Luna, and we had it stop for every sign that had a yellow light on it, whether it was flashing or not. If it wasn't flashing, the car would slow 4 miles an hour, and then once it passed the sign, it would pick back up. If it had the light was on and flashing, then depending on, I couldn't tell the correlation, but the style of light determined whether it thought it was a real traffic light that it should stop for, and it would try to stop. So I ended up with my foot on the accelerator for hours because this ride to Ocean City is full of country roads that have flashing yellow lights over each of the crossways to let people know that they should be looking. And when your foot's on the accelerator, the car tends to ignore any other stop indicators. So if somebody were to jump out in front of me and slam on the brakes, and my foot's on the accelerator, the car would plow into them. Hopefully I would be noticing it and have removed my foot at that point, but say I was slow to react or something, it would do it. The other problem for that is it might make people turn off the feature. And if the feature is off, then the next person gets in the car and drives it using that same profile. For some reason they don't change to their own personal profile. The car might sail through a light where they were expecting it to stop. And that's not good either, because it's unexpected behavior, and you don't want the car to do something unexpected. So we know they can do it because there's several versions of this release. I'll not say this release, but several versions of this software where the car has handled the flashing yellow lights correctly. So that's why it's one of the things I test for, as well as some folks have asked about the chime for the green lights. That's another one where if you're sitting still playing with your phone or in other ways looking out the window or whatever, and the light turns green and it doesn't beep at you, and you don't know that it's not going to beep at you, you might not look up in time to go, and if you're stopped at a green light and somebody comes over a hill or something, they might not behave correctly. I don't know why my camera is autofocusing like that. It'll probably be fixed when we finish the rest of the set. You can see on the TV there, the greenish light is actually the pepper plant that was off to my side before. Well, that's weird. I didn't touch the desk and it wiggled. So that's the flashing yellow light performance. I will I'll talk more about it in the update video, and we'll see how it goes. We've talked about the button. So one thing I thought was really cool is SpaceX got a moon contract from NASA. So they're going to do the lander for the moon, and they're going to put the first woman on the moon, and I thought that was awesome. What do y'all think about that? And while you'll type out your responses, we'll come back to it when you give an answer. Starlink. Gwen Shotwell and Elon Musk believe that it'll be out of beta by the summer, which means that anybody who wants it could just get it. That is phenomenal because that means that the coverage will be essentially worldwide by the summer. It might not be full coverage, but it'll be worldwide. And they also mentioned that they expect to be able to address moving vehicles by that time as well. So that means that if you've got your Starlink on your RV or in the bed of your pickup truck or on the top of your Mack truck, your Class 8 truck, you can get your internet from the sky while you're rolling down the road. And I think that is going to be something else. And I think it's pretty cool. No, Dan, we're not going to skip over Transformers and Elon from Mars if you get on the stream. You've got a button. What Luna and I want to do with our Starlink is we want to use it when we go on the road. We can do live streams. We can do videos and everything from the road. Because right here we've got fiber, because we're in a medium density residential environment, basically suburbs that are getting tighter, and oh my. And so our internet situation is handled, but it would be nice if we had any difficulties to just throw the dish out and I could keep working, or we could keep doing what we do here. But even more, what we were looking for it for was to have it for when we're on the go, because we do, when it's not COVID protocols, we do take a lot of road trips, and to be able to just have regular full-speed internet, upload videos, do everything we do, game, is looking awesome. And so we've ordered a terminal, and we'll see when it arrives, and we'll see if the geofence is on at the time that we get there or not. Zach and Jesse, they tried, and they weren't able to escape their cell. I don't know if that means that their cell was larger than their test, or that theirs is one of the ones that's not subject to the lock. Or perhaps Starlink is only saying that there is a lock because that way if you leave your cell and start complaining, then that's on you, because they only guaranteed it in your area. How to buy Starlink? Oh, to buy it, just go to starlink.com. Put in your address, give them a credit card. They'll take care of you. All right, so another thing that came up in space news is serial number 15. So Starship 15 has got some major changes to it, and Elon thinks that it might go up this week, and that will be quite interesting to see how it handles, because if it lands, that's great. If it doesn't land, hopefully it fails in a completely different way than the other 8 did, because 10, because that will allow them to learn and continue to develop it, because this NASA moon lander is going to be based on Starship, and it's going to need to learn how to land successfully every time, because you kind of need that for your human rating. Well, I mean, Dan, it's a month-to-month sort of situation. I don't believe I saw an annual contract on it. Just cancel it and resume it. Cancel it and resume it when you need it. And Robert Williams, same topic. Starlink, only 4G, and there are places with no signal. Exactly. So, like, there's places that I drive through, like Marlborough County, North Carolina, that there's no cell coverage even. And what if we stopped there for some reason and wanted to do something with with data, and it would be nice to be able to have data. I mean, because look at the people who live there. I mean, you're looking at, if you have no cell coverage, I imagine that the cable and everything else is also just as sparse. I mean, it may not be, but it's become to the point where a lot of places, they consider internet access to be a human right, because so much government work and everything else is done online, that if you can't get it, then it's considered to be you're not participating in society. All right, Eddie's on his Chromebook. Let's get him in here, because Chrome is supported. 1 second, guys. And there you go, Eddie. Perfect. So with having Starlink everywhere, I mean, it's designed for rural first. It's not really designed for people like me who have the ability to have it in an urban or semi-urban environment. But I need the backup, and that's why I've ordered it. Plus, we plan to use it from the road. The flex on the latest launch. No, I didn't catch it. What are you talking about there, Dan? Yeah, so you do have $400 of upfront equipment cost, but see, that's the thing, is currently that's below cost for SpaceX. So I imagine that as they get the volume production up and get the cost down, that price will actually also come down, just like we saw with the SpaceX, or not SpaceX, just like the Teslas. Eddie and Omar have made it. All right, so we're talking about SpaceX right now, and so we've touched on Starship SN15 and the Starlink beta not being beta anymore, where it's going to be public.
Well, Starlink finally, they're putting up more and more satellites. They've gotten past the point of having 10% of their scheduled satellites up. Yeah. So at this point, it's only going to get better from here. Exactly. As they put more satellites up. But what I'm interested to see is if Starlink, if they're going to become a public, because I think Elon already said that he's going to take Starlink public and have it be a publicly traded company. And at that point, then Starlink is now completely separate from SpaceX.
Yes.
And right now, it's basically like a SpaceX side project, right? Now, when it's a completely standalone company on its own, and it's generating its own revenue, and it's becoming revenue positive at that point, because he's probably waiting until a bunch of most of the satellites are already launched or something, to where he can get enough customers so it's revenue positive. Then Starlink will actually be able to pay SpaceX to launch more of their satellites.
Exactly.
Because then they're two separate companies when Starlink is a publicly traded company, and then SpaceX will have the government contracts. It'll have all the other private contracts from all these other private companies, along with Starlink as well.
Yeah, I think that it might be along the lines of a wholly owned subsidiary, but that subsidiary is also public, so that, you and I can invest in it. And he's already said that they're going to take all the value out of this to go to Mars. So he's expecting this to be, a multi-billion-dollar industry, because you're going to need to launch 100 Starships to Mars with supplies, with all the people. That's not going to be a cheap operation. And when you think about it, you're looking at $100 a month per person. Let's just round it out. Probably it could be less, could be more. They've got a lot of ways they can go with it if they go tiered or if they go metered, which they said they're not planning to do at the moment, which is even more admirable, because when you look at their costs, it doesn't actually scale to the point where they're paying per bit. So why charge us per bit?
Right, like doing a metered thing would just be a money grab situation where they try to upcharge people more money, because just allowing them to get whatever throughput that they're able to get, it's not a cost difference for them.
Did I freeze or did Omar freeze?
But the other thing,
Omar froze. So what I would say is,
I froze.
With the data situation, I would go and say perhaps that say certain businesses or like emergency operators, I might make them. You're back, Omar. I might say that they would go give them another tier they can pay extra for the guaranteed like quality of service levels, like best effort delivery versus us on the lower plan. Just say, hey, we're going to take your bits and they'll get there eventually, and they'll probably be good enough to game on, but we're not going to guarantee that. But here's your lower price for that trade-off.
Well, here's the other thing. What about the commercial industry? So you have big companies and stuff that could partner up with them, such as airlines for the Wi-Fi on planes and stuff, or the cruise industry. Cruise ships is huge, as far as data and stuff and Wi-Fi. Like the cruise industry charges you an arm and a leg for Wi-Fi if you're on a cruise,
because
right?
It costs them an arm and a leg too.
Exactly, it costs them an arm and a leg. But if they could partner up with Starlink, and now they're getting it at a cheaper rate, maybe they pay commercial prices as opposed to residential prices. But that's another way that they could
pass the savings on,
make
still keep a profit,
make a bunch of revenue off of that.
Yeah. So that brings up a good point. I'd like to see how they do stuff like that, because they could also do once they have their full shell completed, they could actually do satellite relay communication and do it cheaper than the operators pay the ground stations right now, and faster with more bandwidth. And if you're just literally pointing at the next satellite to go through, assuming you don't need it. Well, actually, once they get the laser links, you will have a solid connection all the way through. But right now, you can just cache your packets so they go through when the satellite coming underneath you or above you, depending on where your orbit is in relation to Starlink's orbit. Or you could hit the backhaul, the ones that once Starlink is done, it'll have multiple levels. Was it 2 or 3? So the higher level is just it moves slower, so it's always in view of another Starlink. So if you're like in geostationary, for instance, you could send all your stuff to that back ring, and it could find what downline it needs to get you to the ground. You could charge an arm and a leg for that, and still be cheaper than the ground stations.
There's a lot of potential.
Yes. So Starship 15, I touched on, I should say, what could happen with that. It could succeed, it could fail. But if it fails, I'm hoping that it fails differently so they learn something, because they just won their NASA contract to take the first female to the moon, and this is
they got to stop. They got to stop making them go boom.
Yes.
Right, before they can put people on them.
Yeah, I think they had to. What is it? 10 launches or 100 launches before they without explosion. Well, I don't think it's 100. I think it's like 10 launches in a row with no changes, safely that they can get their human rating.
Now they're on SN15, right? So we're looking at 15. Now, what happened to those other ones that they skipped?
So from 10, so 11, 12, 13, and 14 were scrapped.
So I think was it SN11? That was the last one?
Or 11, sorry.
So 12, 13, 14 were 15. Yeah, 12, 13, 14, they just, these ain't going to work. Scrap it.
Yeah.
Next.
Yeah, they completely changed the design. So basically, you just use them to learn how to put them together, because the more you put together, the smoother they are. Because remember, they used to look like a wrinkled mess, like if your fingers had been in the bathtub for 2 hours. And now they're like smooth, like a water tower.
Yeah, I remember the first one. It was.
Ouch! That's some expensive internet. So yeah, you definitely be in line for some Starlink right there. Once you get past that initial terminal fee, I mean, you pay the same or less and get 10 times better service. Man. So while we're talking about SpaceX, how about the the 22nd? We've got our next crewed mission from Florida. I still haven't actually seen a crewed one live because they all happened in COVID protocol. The last one I saw DM1. My wife and I, we drove down to Cape Canaveral and we watched them do the test. It had the little Earth simulate the little doll with the eyes and the arms. I don't remember what they called it, like Earthy or something. And that was a fun launch. And before that we saw Falcon Heavy, and that one went up in the last couple of minutes. We were packing up our chairs ready to go, and then the countdown clock started again, so we put the chairs back out.
That's awesome that you got to see Heavy in person. I couldn't. I think I'm trying to remember what was the deal with the Heavy, because I remember going down there for a launch and it got scrubbed, and then I couldn't get back down for the actual launch when it went. I think that's what happened. Yeah. I wanted to see that one so bad. I'm like, I want to see the Heavy. Yep. But
we'll see if Eddie will hit refresh on your page, and maybe I'll let you show your video.
But now my question is, whatever happened with the Heavy? So they had the proof of concept and all that, and they launched it, Starman and all that. But what are they doing with that?
They've launched a couple of government contracts with it. Heavy stuff.
Oh, they have.
Oh yeah.
I missed that.
They've never caught a center core though. Well, I say they haven't. The one center core they got, it fell over because the Octograbber couldn't hold it. But now the Octograbber has a configuration like we talked about with James, where it can actually, with the cars, the Octograbber can change based on the rocket that's attached to it as well. So that's going to be exciting to. So with the the Crew DM1. I saw it launch, and then I was out of vacation time, so we went back home, and then I saw the path that it was taking to get back to Florida. The water outside of Florida was passing right over my office, so I was like, well, let's go outside and take a look. Go outside. It's the thickest clouds I've ever seen. It was just like fog, but at cloud height. And so I went out right when they said I should be out there, and I heard a sonic boom. I didn't see anything, and then right after I heard the sonic, I saw nothing. Yeah, I've actually got a 360 video. I don't know where I put it, but I can hear it. But I didn't publish it because you can't see anything, just clouds. But what was amazing is right after you hear the last of the sonic boom go, you get the messages that it's landed in Florida. I'm like, you've gone from South Carolina to Florida in the time of a sonic boom. That is as fast.
Yeah, it is. Well, think about it. The sonic boom means they're traveling faster than the speed of sound.
This is true.
So the time that it took for the boom to get to you,
that's true.
In that period of time, they traveled like, hundreds of miles probably. It's insane.
Yeah, let's see if one of these smart devices can figure the math out. Let's try this one. I'm going to mute myself real quick so I don't send off anybody else's devices. How long would it take to get from South Carolina to Florida at Mach 4?
From South Carolina, a drive to Florida would take about 6 hours and 55
that's not
minutes.
What I said.
You did not say drive.
I said at Mach 4. Well, let's see.
Try flying at Mach 4.
According to Superhero Database, Mach 4's speed is rated at 60 out of 100. By the way, an Amazon package was delivered today.
Yes, it was. Thanks for telling all my business. So,
here is a company, Serum Institute of India.
You're done. Get off my stream. All right, so let me get my Google Foo going. I'm curious now.
See, that's what's wrong with relying on Alexa. You gotta use Google Home, man.
Well, it's all the way in the other room.
Talk to the Goog.
It's in the other room. I gotta find my Google.
Hold on, let me mute myself and ask.
Okay.
Because mine is all the way on the other side, so I gotta yell at it.
All right, so Bing told me how to fly there. So at least they got the speed, right? Let's try Google. Oh, here we go. SR-71 Blackbird says LA to London speed record, and the SR-71 is probably as fast as you'd want to land, and it took 56 minutes at Mach 1.5. Where is that from for sure? On the initial flight. I don't think that's from, is it? Let me search London. Okay, there we go. New York to London in 1 hour 54 minutes at... What speed is that? 1 hour, 54 minutes, and 56 seconds at an average speed of 1,800 miles and 1,806 miles, 0.96 miles per hour. Wow. So that's the speeds we're talking about right there. Oh, well, that explains that, Eddie. Is the microphone working? Maybe the Chrome needs an update on your Chromebook. Anders has 10 gigabit. Good gracious. I want some of that. $3.99 SKR for $47.30 a month. We need competition in this country, man. Omar, you're on mute still.
Wait a minute, $50 a month and you're getting
10 gigabit.
Gigabit speed?
10 gigabit.
10 gigabit speed?
Yes.
Whoa.
I need some of that.
First of all, 10 gigabit's not even available here. I got gigabit speed in it, but I'm paying more than that.
Right?
I'm paying more than double that for gigabit.
I've seen it commercial, and so you got the commercial rate plus the 10 gigabit rate, and they charge out the wazoo to get 10 gigabit here. to be able to get it at home for $50. Man, bring it on.
I wish that was available here.
Eddie says he's on mute.
I wish I could get that.
He's not on mute for me. Let me mute him and unmute him and see if that helps. Try now, Eddie. Dan says Skunkworks. 750 times 4. Yeah, that's right. Speed of sound, 750 times 4, Mach 4. I don't think you'd want to come in faster than that and hit the water. Parachute or not. Wow.
You better have a landing burn to slow you down. If you
they have a retro burn and they have some parachutes. But that's about it. All right, so I'm looking forward to that Crew Dragon. So the next thing that came up was Autopilot crash data, and
yes, I saw that.
So some folks were saying that it's a little misleading because it's only on the highway, and I was like, well, it's two other people besides myself. We're like we use it everywhere we go. I use it if there's a painted line, I pull in the button because why should I drive in the most boring situations possible when the car is willing to do it for me? And it's like, FSD doesn't count. I said, no, I prefaced my statement with, I don't have FSD Beta yet. And he's like, I see FSD is different from... I'm like, well, it's the same as regular Autopilot for me, except that I can, turn the signal to change lanes because, it is FSD or EAP package. So... I'm impressed at the safety, and it's gonna be a requirement because.
So, Elon tweeted out that they're approaching 10 times, it being 10 times safer than human driver, right?
With passive autopilot, which is where the safety,
right.
Where it's just watching.
So
yeah.
So the thing is I think originally that was the threshold that he was trying to get to was 10 times more safe than a human driver in order for it to be acceptable. He had to be an order of magnitude better in order for people to start really accepting it, that it's safe.
Absolutely. Hey, Demetria.
Hey, Demetria.
It gets better than that, though, because that passive autopilot is 10 times safer than us. Then when you actually turn on autopilot, active autopilot, it becomes another 10 times safer than that.
But I'm curious to how that's going to change. So he's changing autopilot altogether, right? So he's full self-driving. I'm sorry. So he's no longer going to be using the radar because he said it's just noise as far as the computer is concerned, and he's just going to eliminate the radar altogether. He wants to do it completely off of cameras.
Yeah.
And he even said that he's going to stop putting the radar in. He's going to stop including the hardware in future vehicles. So they won't even have it.
I hope that he's completed his test before he starts doing that, because I imagine that taking the bumper off of thousands of cars, putting the radar back in, assuming that he leaves the plug there until he's sure, will be more expensive than just putting the radar in until he's 100% sure that he's not going to use it. Because at least for us, he could just turn it off, and then it saves us that much power, which was 500 watts, which 50 watts. Either way, it's
whatever it is,
but not a lot.
It's not a ton. I mean, but so my question is the Cybertruck going to have that? They're going to completely not put it in the Cybertruck?
Well, radar can't see through metal, so
right. But I mean, where would they put it? Where would they put the radar in order for it to? I mean, they would probably find somewhere to put it where it won't be underneath or something.
Right. If they were to put a radar on it. So I'm hoping that they
if they were to put
before
one.
They make it. Yeah. So Eddie, it's going to be the 8 cameras that are already around the outside of the vehicle. It's going to be them. So it's light based, yes. So I've got friends that have metallic wraps on their Model X's and Model 3s. I'm sure it happens on the S as well, but I don't have any friends complaining about it with the Model S. If you put a metallic wrap and it covers the radar, it can give such fuzzy data compared to what the radar already does that it becomes useless and turns itself off and starts complaining. So they actually end up having to cut a window of basically a matte color that closely matches the metallic color so that the radar can see through without whining or slamming on the brakes all the time. So that's why I'm thinking that since Cybertruck is metal all the way through, that they might not even, this might be the one, if they get the data in time before they start production, they might not actually put the radar on the Cybertruck. But if they do need it when it starts, I figure they'll probably do like the Model S with the nose cone, like my Model S 90D, where they have this little radar sensor in the grill. And so it'll either be in the grill or in the gap between the bumper and the hood area.
I think they may not even include it on the Cybertruck at all.
That's what I'm thinking.
I think that they're already getting to the point of not using the radar at all. And I think that that's why Elon put a pause on your your FSD button, right? Because I think that version 9 that he's talking about going to, where he's no longer on 8 point whatever, he's now on version 9. And he said he's doing it in a completely different way than they were doing 8. And I think that version 9 is when they start with the alleviating using the radar data at all. Yeah.
Basically, I'm going to hit the button. It's going to shut down my radar, and it's going to drive using just cameras. And if enough of us don't crash, then that's their validation right there, just in time for the factory to get done, and for them to have all the parts ordered, and they just won't put any radars in the Cybertruck. Is my guess.
Yeah, that's what I think is going to happen.
Did you see those pictures from Terra, Texas, with the crew looking at it?
Yes. So
it looks great with mud on it.
It does. It looks like a real truck.
Yeah.
That's what a truck's supposed to look like.
Yes.
At a work site, people with safety vests and hard hats on around it and dirt all over it. That when you think of a truck, that's what you think of, right?
Exactly.
And what's funny is, so I've seen a lot of comments online and people talking about it. Well, that's still the original prototype, the one that Elon's been driving around in. So we don't know what the final design is yet, because people were saying, "Oh, look, it has handles. I thought he said it wasn't going to have handles and this and that." And I'm like,
it was in the Peterson Museum. Yeah.
I'm like, this isn't the final design. This is the same prototype.
Yeah. And somebody said that they saw 2 at the factory. So either that was the new one and this one, or 2 of the new one at the test track. And it was coming from a Tesla employee, so we don't have pictures because, who's gonna risk that job and those stock options?
No, they can't do that.
We saw what happened when somebody got offered $500,000. He bumped it to $1 million and still didn't take it, and turned the dude into FBI.
Which was the smart thing to do, by the way.
That was the smart thing to do. Absolutely, you don't risk it because you will get caught. But I just found it awesome the way they played him, or he played them.
Right.
The employee played the Russian guy, and then they caught him at the airport trying to leave the country.
I thought that was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Taycan for a moment. The Porche Taycan sold over 9,000 vehicles in Q1. I mean, every
it's something, but I mean, it's 9,000. I mean, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy because it's an EV, and any non-combustion sale is a win. So
right, but we need those numbers to be way higher.
Yes.
I mean, it's at this point, it's like, okay, you sold 10,000 cars. Okay, so there's pretty much a compliance car. Like
at this point, yeah.
I mean, that's what they were doing back in the day. With everybody had to come out with some kind of hybrid or EV or something, and they would only sell them in California and New Jersey or whatever. Just to meet the compliance regulations or whatever, right? Yeah. And they would sell such a small number of them and wouldn't try to sell them.
But it does help that they turned it into an Audi as well. So they just rebadged it, and now it's an Audi.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I like you said, I'm all for it. More EVs that are sold, that's less gas cars that are sold. So,
yeah,
it's all part of the it's part of the mission. But see, and then that brings me to the other point, which is all these other manufacturers, everybody, whether it's Ford, GM, whomever, the German automakers, everybody's going to have to go EV, right? So they all have to start making EVs.
Legally, in some cases.
They're all fighting for batteries.
Yes.
And who has, like out of those automakers, how many of them have their own like humongous battery factories where they'll be able to push out a crap load of batteries?
Right.
Like that's the smart thing that Tesla did. You know, they're trying to be a vertically integrated company where they're trying to make as much in-house as possible. And since the battery is the most expensive part, it makes sense to focus on battery production more than anything else.
Yep. And they bought everybody's extra supply of batteries, and they're making their own. And if anybody else comes online with a factory, they're like, "Hey, can we get in on that?"
Right. So, so now that's going to be a big issue for the legacy automakers going forward. And I think eventually they're going to be buying batteries off of Tesla.
Yes.
So
Tesla says, "Oh, these didn't meet our standard. Would you like them? they still work."
I mean
they weren't bad enough to recycle.
Because I think Tesla as an energy company is going to end up making probably more profit off of energy than they will off of their cars. Be it whether that's putting solar production in, whether it's battery packs for electrical grids or power walls or selling batteries to other car makers, like all these things. Just as an energy company, I think they're going to make a ton of money on the energy side, besides the car manufacturing side.
Yeah, I think that this stands to make them a lot of money, and of course complete the mission of getting us off of combustion, which is the way to go. Anders, you bring up a good point about the FSD not having radar. In theory, yes. But if they're having trouble integrating the radar data with the vision data, Elon suggested, which one do you throw away? If you don't have stereo radar, you're going to have to throw away your radar data because you've got more than stereo vision data.
The problem with the radar. Well, go ahead, Casey. I'm sorry.
The other thing that comes in, yes, it can basically only see what we can see, but it can see a little better because they don't have IR filters on any of their cameras. So they can see infrared, and they can see probably a little bit of ultraviolet as well. So it's a little bit better than we can see.
Well, I would say a lot better than we can see, especially at night. Because the fact that it can see the infrared and like that's going to give it much better night vision than we would have.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing is with the radar, the problem with radar is the radar, it can't see shapes. So it can only tell you, I see something there. There's something there. Okay, that thing is getting closer to us. It's traveling at this speed towards us. Yeah. But it doesn't tell you what that is. Is that a manhole cover that it's looking at? That's just, kind of out of place a little bit? That's totally safe to just ride right over and nothing's going to happen? Or is it a car?
Right. And we've seen that with the military, where you can hide a big old jet and make it look like a goose by adjusting its return. Same thing happens with somebody drops an aluminum can on the side of the road. If the bottom side, the concave end, is facing the car, it looks like a Mack truck. But if the edge is facing the car, then it's like, all right, it's a medium-sized round metal thing. But they don't know much more about it. I am curious if stereo radar would give them more useful data, or if it would be about the same. It's probably going to be about the same, though, I think.
I'm thinking it's going to be close to the same. Maybe just a little better, but not by much.
Better resolution, but still 2D.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Robert Williams mentioned that he saw a lot of near crashes on his walk. I see so many every day, and I watch these crash compilation channels like Wham Bam Tesla Cam for one, and they make me fearful to be out there with my fellow man. I wouldn't say it's just like the Mystery Machine, because it does give you useful data, but if you have a question and you've got two different answers, and one of them is radar and one of them is 3 cameras saying this thing is huge or this thing is no threat, which one do you throw away? I'm going to throw away the radar, assuming that my cameras are very confident. If it's as good as he says it is, then I think that's the right call. If not, then hopefully they haven't stopped all their orders for radar modules yet. Or maybe they order them with a return policy this time, so they can, we actually take this pallet back. We're returning it. Oh, okay, I get you. Yeah, I see something. So about the Mercedes EQS, that had its little soft launch this week. What did you think of that?
I think they really need to improve their interface, their UI. Like
that's what I came to.
I mean, like, it's a luxury vehicle. It's beautiful. The inside is luxurious. I like the seats.
Hot stone massage.
There's so much to it that I like, and I want to like this car so much. But then when you start to actually use it, the touchscreen or whatever, and I'm like, you're kidding me, right? You're kidding me. You threw this thing in. You basically threw a screen in from 2012. Like, what was you doing? Like,
and then the tablet in the back for the fifth passenger is a 2014 Galaxy Tab 4.
Why?
How long ago did you have to order all these tablets to get this thing that old? Or how much of a deal did Samsung give you to unload the last of the warranty stock?
Right. Like, what? I mean,
I would get it. I would get it if it was an entry level car, and this was hey, here's a Samsung tablet. We've got all this high tech crap, blah blah blah. But if you're spending $150,000 or more dollars, I would expect a tablet from at least 2 years ago.
You know what? That thing is not going to sell, and I think they did that on purpose. I don't think they want it to sell.
They could say, "Oh, electrics don't work. Nobody wants it."
No, I think they don't want it to sell because they can't mass produce but so many of them because they don't have the batteries to do it.
So they'll make everyone they sell and they'll make a profit, and then they say, oh yeah, it's low sales, we don't need to hurry up yet, and then wait for their battery factory to come online. Oh wait, no, they're not part of Volkswagen Group, they're Mercedes. So yeah, they don't have a battery factory, do they?
No, and I think that's the problem. They don't have a good firm battery supply that they can put out millions of cars with. So you know what? Let's make something that it's still not going to bring shame to our brand, but at the same time, it's something that all the high-tech people that would want high-tech aren't going to want this car.
And all the people who want luxury stone massage. We
can undersell it.
Yeah.
Only sell a few of them, not sell as many, and then that way we don't have to make as many, and we don't. While we're still trying to work out our battery constraints, our battery issues with trying to get supply. In the meantime, we can say, "Hey, we make an EV too. We have one. We're doing it too." But at the same time, they're not really at that point that they can really get serious about EVs yet.
Right. Excuse me. So who does have a battery factory? We've got Tesla, Volkswagen. I'm not saying that it's necessarily online, but these are the people who will have one. Nissan, technically, they spun theirs off, but that's still isn't it still an exclusive partnership, right? And General Motors. Anybody else have their own batteries? I mean, like Rivian and a couple others have their own batteries, but they're not making them.
They're making their packs, but not the batteries.
Right, there's a difference. You got to get them raw cells.
Right.
And as Eddie would tell us, so many of them aren't actually going to make it.
Yeah. We believe it when we see it.
Yes. What about this crash in Houston? I'm not familiar with that one. Let me see if we can't. See if you can't find a link to that, please, Omar.
No one was driving the vehicle?
Yeah, I'm curious.
Let me see if I can find that.
Okay. So, like Omar said, with the luxury crew, there's plenty of people who won't look at a Tesla. They see the tri-point star and they think that's a good car. I mean, generally it's at least an okay car, but
it caught fire.
Oh, send me a link. I'll put it in the private chat. But I think that what we're going to see is that for people who are actually looking for real luxury, we'll see other opportunity for folks that have the whole package come in and be able to meet the comfort. Yes, part of luxury is comfort, but it doesn't necessarily mean lots of buttons, lots of screens. You can have, there's different levels and different ideas for luxury, and I think that we'll see that. Because somebody's talking about a Mercedes EQS Maybach. So, how much more can you add to this car? I mean, I'm thinking we're talking 150 base price for the regular EQS. I was talking to my wife in the car on the way home last night. I'm thinking that the Maybach is going to be probably 650,000 or more. And I mean, I'm picturing basically hand-laid wood.
I guess there's a market for that, you know, just to show off, just because they can.
Yeah.
One of those rich people toys that I got the big daddy toy that you can't afford, you know, to show off. Okay, right. I mean, I guess.
Mine has a champagne cooler in the back. Oh wow, that was fiery. That is a Model S or Model X wheel. That's a Model S roof and back door. All right, let me share screen on that.
Looks like an S.
It definitely an S. All right, so trigger warning: after crash footage or after crash pictures. I'll let you know when it's off screen. Oh,
they said it was traveling at really high speed and hit a tree.
And no one was driving. How is that possible that no one was driving the vehicle unless they were defeating the devices? Car burst into flame after. I mean, if you hit a tree at high speed, stuff catches fire no matter what the fuel is. It was a performance car, or somebody's faking it with those brakes. But the fact that it survived a fire tells me it was probably the real deal and not the hand painted at the house.
Right. Yeah, I would say that to performance.
Electric. Yep. Yeah. You can see the performance brake right there because the performances still have separate park brakes, or at least they did in 19. I don't know if the Ravens still have the separate park brake or not. There was a person in the passenger seat and in the rear passenger seat. So this sounds like one of them TikTok's gone wrong situations.
Yeah, it sounds like the person was in the driver's seat, put it on autopilot. He had a defeat mechanism on there, and then jumped into the passenger seat, and he did it at high speed, so it didn't negotiate a turn, and because it was going too fast, hit a tree.
Who is Herman? Constable Mark Herman. Okay, so I mean, just because he thinks nobody was driving, does he have any proof no one was driving? Did he hook up? I mean, there's not much left of the car to hook up to, but did they hook up to the black box? I've seen too many cases where people say that Autopilot was doing stuff, and I mean, yeah, the fact there's nobody in the driver's seat is probably a clue that something was going wrong, but
I mean, was he not wearing a seatbelt and got tossed around the car and ended up looking like he was in the passenger side to begin with? I mean, I don't know.
But he still had to defeat all the safety catches to get Autopilot to be on, well, you're right though. If he was just manually driving and he wasn't wearing a seatbelt, and he got tossed in the back, it could look bad. He said the owner was found in the back seat upright. Well, you don't generally get tossed that way. Victims watched the car burn for hours as authorities tried to tap out the flames.
Lithium batteries will burn hot and burn.
They will
for a long time.
Is this another case of somebody not busting the window and grabbing the people out? Because that very first one where the policeman had his window smasher and didn't rescue the old man, that was infuriating to me. They used 32,000 gallons of water to extinguish the flames because the batteries kept reignited. And that is Tesla instruction, is to just keep wetting the car till it cools down and stops catching fire.
Yep, drown it. Surround it, drown. Just drown it, keep drowning it till it's no longer hot.
Yep, don't poke any holes, just keep wetting it.
Nope, just keep drowning it till it's not hot no more.
Yep. Deputies had to call Tesla to ask him how to put the fire out, and that's exactly what they told him. So they will perform autopsies, but that won't tell us anything about the car. So my thoughts go out to, I'm hoping that's not what happened. The Luke Mono hands. My thoughts go out to the victims, and I hope that we get a real answer to this. I mean, so often we get the sensational Tesla crash, and then they don't tell us what happened. All right, I'm going to take this off the stream. All right, so for those folks I gave the trigger warning, you are now safe to look at the screen again. Wow, so that's some stuff right there. Thanks for the heads up. 6 MG EVs. That's cool. I'm assuming the MG cars and not the MG motorcycles, right? Yeah, Eddie. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. I agree. If you're not in the driver's seat, then you're just asking for trouble. These aren't self-driving cars. I mean, yeah, the package is called full self-driving, but when you go to turn it on, you get a 3-page disclaimer telling you that it's not actually ready yet and that it's not what it is called yet. So don't use it that way. And
if you're setting the autopilot to be at a much greater speed than the speed limit of the road,
yeah,
I mean, you're definitely asking for trouble jumping out of the driver's seat and not being in the driver's seat to be able to take over.
Yeah. And that's why we had so many of the restrictions that we do have on there because people were being stupid. Like the very first time that we had Autopilot 1, some dagoff goes and puts himself on top of the car with the sunroof open, because this is when Model S still had a sunroof. And he's standing surfing on the car, and so next thing we know, we get a seatbelt check. And then we got the tug on the wheel constantly because people were sleeping or whatever, playing on their phones. And it's why we can't have nice things.
This is why they're probably going to start utilizing that internal camera in the Tesla to visually confirm that you're sitting in the driver's seat and doing something.
Absolutely.
And paying attention.
Can't fix stupid. What's his name?
Technology
Jim.
can solve a lot of problems, but it can't you can't save you from yourself if you're going to do unwise things.
Jim Wright. He says you can fix stupid, but you gotta lay down plastic first.
Wow.
He's an old warrant officer, so a little less politically correct. So while we're on the subject of the EQS, Green Car Reports, one of their writers suggests that it's really efficient, and I don't doubt that. I mean, the hood doesn't really open, right? The little slot on the side that I was thinking is like some kind of weird charge connector was actually the windshield washer filler. Yeah, so he's saying that it was it 390 watt hours per mile equivalent, basically. And so for me, that would mean that it is about where my Model X is on the highway sometimes. But my Model X will often get into the low 300s, high 200s if I'm careful. So it's actually worse than my Model X.
The high 300s, that's about what my Model S does in the winter.
At high speed.
When I'm utilizing the heat,
Yeah. So it's not terrible.
Yeah, I'm usually in the high 300s.
This is true. For those on audio only, Anders is telling Mark that nothing's impossible if you believe Elon, but very difficult. He thinks the last idiot is not born yet. So, I mean, the EQS, I like the idea that it's got good filters. It does concern me that, that they've got all that stuff under the hood, so it has no frunk. I mean, when are these traditional automakers going to stop with the everything up front design? I mean, part of the beauty of an electric is you can put it wherever it fits, lay it flat, and then use that front as a crumple zone. If you've got stuff up there, I mean, yeah, it's not as bad as an engine block, but it's all stuff that doesn't smush. I want stuff that smushes in front of me if I'm going to be running into something.
It's funny. I was at an Earth Day event yesterday.
Yeah.
And so one of the organizers had reached out to me and asked me to bring my car. So I brought my Tesla there.
Yeah.
And they were so glad that I did, because it was only two EVs there. There was a whole bunch of other things going on, but as far as EVs, it was me and it was a Chevy Bolt.
Yeah.
So we were both showing off our cars and everything, and everybody was interested in the cars, and they're looking at them. And I had my frunk open, and I have the old Model S, so I have the big, huge frunk, like crazy amount of space in there.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, like everybody, like they looked at the Bolt and then they looked at the Tesla and they're like, oh my God. And everybody wants the Tesla. Like nobody, it was crazy. Like they would kind of look at the Bolt like, oh, that's cool. That's cute. And then they would look at this, look at all this space you have in this car.
Yes.
Like it's amazing. And then like, oh, so what, the motor's in the back or something? And then I would pop the trunk and have the trunk open too. So I'm like, no, you got even more space back there. And they're looking and like, oh my God, this has more space than my SUV. I'm like, yeah, it does.
It does. Yeah. In fact, the Model S has more space than the Model X with the 6 seats or the 7 pretty seats, because the middle seats, when they're powered, don't fold. They kind of slide forward and tip a little bit. So that was why it took us so long to trade our Model S on our Model X, because we were waiting for folding seats that weren't just 5 seats, because the 5 seats are all benches. But ours is the 7 seats with 2 benches. So the middle row is a 3-seat bench, and the rear row is the 2 individual folding seats. So now we actually do have more space in our Model S because it's a bigger car. But we would have lost several cubic feet, like a noticeable amount. And it would have been to the point where, with not counting the frunk, just literally just opening the trunk, our Model S would have been bigger than the Model X if we had gone with the 7 pretty seats. And they cost less too, so.
And my Model S being the old one, of course, it has the even bigger frunk. I mean, it's like a ridiculous amount of space. Plus, it has like the little like microwave side compartment inside the frunk. On top of that, like it's hard to explain. You kind of have to see a picture of it. But when you open up the frunk, you got the big, huge opening, and then you have another small opening that goes back further. Yeah. They gave much space as possible in that.
Absolutely. So, what do you guys think of this Mercedes EQB SUV coming to China now and in the U.S. next year?
Do you remember the Mercedes B-Class?
Yes. The little van thing.
Right. Remember how that thing was like a total fail?
Yeah.
That's what I'm predicting is going to happen with this one.
Somebody else had brought up the point that that if you design a car and base it off of an ICE platform, instead of giving it its own dedicated platform, it's going to fail miserably. And I think they're onto something, because we haven't seen a single ICE platform, non-plug-in hybrid succeed. Plug-in hybrids are different, so I mean, they're still hybrids, number one.
Well, wasn't the original Leaf kind of based on their Versa, the Nissan Versa?
It was loosely based on the Versa, and it did pretty well.
So that did well. That succeeded.
But it was when you think about it, though, it was still a dedicated platform. You couldn't turn it back into a Versa.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You might be right. I mean, you might be onto something.
It's pretty, but I mean, I'm just. What's up, Unscripted?
Hey. Thanks for tuning in from India. Nice.
Yes, exactly. Yes, Eddie. I like the idea of a frunk.
Well, what's interesting about the Bolt is they made the way they did the hood shape.
Yeah.
They made it short, right?
Right.
So they had the space. Like if they would have made a longer hood,
yeah,
they would have had plenty of room to have a nice, decent sized frunk, and they would have had more of a crumple zone.
Right. Well, so, I mean, if they do it right, they don't need as much of a crumple zone. But that's what I'm saying is, like, if they're not going to give you a frunk, I would much rather it be short and give me back that room inside the passenger compartment.
Yeah.
So I mean, like a bus. And I think was it Eddie that said it was easier to do maintenance that way? Yeah, frunk is cool, but it must be a monster when it comes to maintenance. So it depends on what you're doing and how you've designed the car for access. If, like in the case of the Tesla, everything's under the rear seat, or in the older cars, you just drop the battery, which I say just as if it's easy, but it was easier than it is today because the new ones are quite integrated. They don't drop so easily, which is why they have the penthouse, which is above the battery in the rear seat. And then the motors drop out relatively easily. Omar, you've had the motor bearing issue replaced on yours, right?
Yeah, I didn't watch how they did it though, but
yeah. So
but they took my motor out and swapped it out.
Yeah.
It didn't take them long.
Not at all. With that repair, they found that it was quicker and cheaper for them to change the motor for a different one than to actually go in there in the shop, take the motor apart, replace the bearing, put it back together, and put it back in the car. So you saved the technician time, you saved the customer time, you didn't have to give out a loaner. Well, they probably did in your case because it was early still.
I did get a loaner back then, yeah.
Yeah, but it got to the point where they were able to do that in, 2 hours or so? And so literally they would just tell you to go wait in the waiting room.
Yeah, what was funny is they let me take their a loaner car, and they're like, oh, go to lunch or whatever. When you come back, it should be done or whatnot. So
yeah,
we literally just drove off, went out, explored a little bit, got lunch, came back, and they were like, okay, yeah, your car's ready.
Yeah. And then at that point, you can either ship them all in a crate back to Fremont to have a robot do it, or a dedicated team open everything up and replace the bearing. Or, well, I guess they made those themselves even back then. If they had bought them like some of these other manufacturers do, they could just ship them all in a crate, in a container back to the manufacturer for them to do it. But it's a lot easier.
Eddie, as far as maintenance, there's not a lot of maintenance to do to the EVs. That's the thing.
Right,
and
if
so
you're a traditional manufacturer, you're not used to no maintenance yet. So you're going to err on the side of how do we fix these things in the field.
Right. And the thing about like what Tesla did, like with my car anyway. So you have a big, huge frunk, but then you have like behind the frunk, right before you get to the windshield, there's a space there where you can't really get to, right? There's a cover there. They pop that cover off, the big, huge plastic cover. They pop that off, and then they can get to certain things underneath in there, such as the 12-volt battery or the cabin air filter. There's, I guess, certain other things that might need some maintenance, like maybe to refill refrigerant or something for the AC, which, oddly enough, I haven't had to do yet. And it's interesting to me that my car, at the age that it is, I have a 2013, so it's going on 8 years now, and I haven't had to have my AC maintenance at all yet. So I think it might be something different with how the AC runs in an electric car than how they run in a gas car.
Yeah.
And okay, so now with that frunk, what they did is, okay, now that has the big, the big HEPA filter. So what you can literally take out basically the plastic tub. That's the frunk part, right? All that stuff is usually covered by plastic. You take that tub out, and now you can get to everything. You get to everything you need to service it, maintenance, do whatever needs to be done.
Yeah, if you're slow, it takes 10 minutes to take out, and that's on your first time. If you're not a technician, it's going to take you 5 minutes the second time. It'll take you 10 minutes the first time. There's a bunch of 10mm bolts, and I mean, so it's not like it's an empty compartment. It's got the largest filter I've ever seen. Going across the whole of the car. It's got my 12-volt battery. Sorry, if it helps if I show you on my mouse. It's got a 12-volt battery.
I don't think the filter to my HVAC in my house is that big.
That's what I'm saying. I got a large one in my house, and it's half the size of that. You got your fuse block, you got your fireman's cut loop, or you can just unplug it. I found out that was pretty cool. You got the backs of the headlights. Under here, you got the inlet for all of this air. The bottom of the front tub is a plenum, so that the air comes through this snoot here, through here, and then through that filter, and then into the cabin. You've got your AC compressor. You've got your front motors under this. You've got your suspension. You've got your crush rails. I mean, it's just as full as a traditional car, but the way they use the space is so much more efficient that they can put a trunk in there. I mean, look at the Ford Mach-E. It's got a trunk with a drain in it, so you can fill it up with ice, party out of it, and then pop the drain like on the old Honda Ridgeline when you're done. And as the ice melts, it just drips on out onto the ground.
And you know what? And that's Ford doing that. And I thought that was a smart design. I actually like that feature, having a frunk with a drain that you could just drain out. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I had the same. I was watching Sandy Munro tear apart the ID4, and I had the same level of disappointment when he opened that hood, and there was Like some of the EVs we've seen have like a little filing cabinet. There's like a space to put one piece of paper, like a file folder. Like you're going on an interview, you put your resume folder in there and you close the front. It didn't even have that. What was he doing here? Oh, I remember. This one was in 2019. So I was actually getting my 12-volt battery replaced. That's why he had it open. Oh, I gotta love this stuff. And so speaking of Sandy Munro and the ID4, what did you think of that, Omar?
You know what? I didn't watch the Sandy Munro one. I did see the ID4, and I saw, from what I saw, the ID4. I kind of, again, it's going to serve its purpose. It serves its place. I think I mean I like it, but it's not better than a Tesla. That's my biggest problem right now. It's like nobody's doing anything that's even bang for your buck. Even if you look at that, you just I'm not thoroughly impressed with it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if it was cheaper, I would excuse some of the corners they cut. But to be the same price as the Model Y and almost the same size as the Model Y, I would expect something to actually compete with the Model Y. It not having anything in the front was a disappointment. But then, like when he tried to use the charging network, I mean, he's not a stupid guy, and it took him. I was literally watching him for 5 minutes try to work the charger. And he said, that wasn't even the first one they tried. The first one was offline. And I was watching the kilowatts feed, and he said, I've never had problems with EV, what was there? The Volkswagen network.
Electrify America?
Electrify America. Yeah, he's like, I haven't had a problem with them up until now, but, I got there. 4 were offline, 1's rebooting, and I do run into offline superchargers all the time, but rarely is it the whole site. Usually it's just one unit and maybe another 2 that somebody's crushed with their pickup truck, which is not Tesla's fault at all. Guys, you gotta stop crushing the superchargers with your pickup trucks. They don't belong there in the first place. So, Eddie, the maintenance, I think, is going to be more akin to my computer. If my graphics card goes out, I get another graphics card, shove it in there. If my RAM goes out, I get more RAM boards, I shove them in the memory slots. Motherboard goes out, that's a little harder. You gotta, sometimes you gotta reinstall because your software doesn't like all the serial numbers changing. But that's on bad software design rather than, if I'm replacing it with the same model. So, I mean, yeah, it's going to be labor intensive, but I don't think that it's any more labor intensive than changing a transmission or an engine out on a fossil car. Yeah, I agree, Mark. It didn't seem that Sandy was that impressed with what was going on there. And yeah, the steering is easier to service because it's right underneath that plenum.
Yep.
Yep. All right. So, does anybody have in the audience? Anybody have anything in the audience while I come up with the pre submitted questions? Because you guys are live, I want to get you first as a priority. And while you start typing, I'm going to get to the first question or statement. That's sick. The guy said, Tesla wreck Model Y, funny Tesla crash. No, crashes are not funny. Tesla Model X center console. So I'm going to assume that that's talking about the new center console on the refresh. That thing is sweet looking. You got the place to just put your phone down, let it charge. I'm assuming you got the glove box space for your Tesla cam footage.
Yep, for the USB. Yep.
Yeah, and I am excited to see that. I want to take it on a spin. I was just talking to my wife yesterday about how much we paid down on the current car. It's going nowhere. And I was on Reddit with some folks. We were talking about how you could tell in the option codes which level of free charging you have. My option code says paid supercharging, even though I don't pay for my supercharging. So
that's weird.
I think what it is they wanted to make sure that when I traded in, nobody had to flip anything to make sure that they got their money. It was one of the last ones to get the free supercharging, and I got it through referral code because I referred myself.
My car has free supercharging for life of the vehicle.
Yeah, so your code is a whole other code.
So when I sell my car, the next person to have free supercharging.
As long as it doesn't go through a Tesla store on the way in.
Correct.
It'll have to be.
So Tesla's not even selling those anymore. The 2013s.
Yeah, they just turn yours into a service vehicle.
Exactly.
Rip the rear seat out, put a rack in, and hey, here's your new service vehicle.
Yep.
Or loaner.
Yours
yours is in good shape, so yours will probably be a loaner. It's usually the ones that they can't, like it's been in a wreck, or it's got like a wobbly rear wheel or something. They're like, here's a tech car, and the tech will fix it themselves because they get tired of it going like this. So Model S gaming, I think that is referring to the new gaming system, because the new system has got basically a Ryzen 5, and it can do 4K, and none of the screens in the new Model S are 4K. You got a same old 1900 by 1200, and you've got a new HD screen in the back, and then you've got the binnacle screen's never been HD. Oh, I mean not HD, 720p, so that's HD technically, but it's not. And you're not going to be gaming on the screen right in front of the driver anyway. It's not built for that. I'm excited. I can't wait to try that part out. I'll get
the fact that it'd be able to run full games. Like I'm really curious as to how that's going to look.
This nub right here next to my white Wi-Fi router, that black box right there is my Xbox controller. I keep it in a case ready to roll.
So where are you guys at? You on vacation or something? Or
oh, this is my office. I just rotated everything this way.
Okay, because I'm just not used to seeing.
This is my window. Yeah, the window's usually in front of the screen, and now it's to the right. And you can see in my on my TV here, you can see the green the greenhouse. So the peppers are. I can't get the left and right in the camera, but anyway, that's the peppers over there.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Unlimited supercharging goes with the car. Yes, and no. So in Omar's case, it goes with the car. And in my old car, it went with the car. But in my current car, it is not really stuck to the driver. It's for the life of the driver, for the life of the car. So if I crash the car and they replace it, I don't get it. If I sell it to anybody, it's gone. But in Omar's case, as long as it doesn't go through Tesla, because what Tesla will do now, if they were to resell it, is they would reset the bit so that it would have paid supercharging. But it used to be even if it went through Tesla, the next owner and the next owner would have free supercharging.
Right. So my car is just grandfathered in because it's one of the OGs.
Yep. Ford had college kids with the idea of a cooler option. Probably so, or somebody who had something to do with that Ridgeline cooler, because I like that one too. Let's see what else came up aside from gaming. We had Model S top speed is. That's a touchy one. Right now, it's 155.
155.
Electronically limited. But with the new Model S, it is, what did they say, 200 plus? For the plasma?
It's uncorked.
It's uncorked. But it just says plus. So I think that to find out what it is, we'll have to wait for them to come out with the new tires, or because it's going to need tires. That's
going to be the other thing. Yeah, how fast is it safe to drive on your tires?
Yes. And so I think that we'll either find it's going to be done at a racetrack or in the salt flats. We'll find the top speed that way. And it's going to be, when they say plus, I don't think that Elon is a big fan of, it says 200 plus. It's not going to be 200 and a half or 201. I think it's going to be like 210, 220 just for the heck of it. Just because that's the way that, he's petty like that.
Right.
Yeah. So in to you as an example, if Omar were to sell you his car, it would have free supercharging. If I sold you my car, it would be paid supercharging because of the way that mine is set up. It can't be done through private party.
Right. And if I sold directly to you, Dan, you wouldn't have to worry about taking it in for service and Tesla removing it. They won't do that.
Right. It's only if they own the title for any length of time. If they don't ever own the title, they don't touch it. Unless you abuse it or the car comes a total loss. By abuse it, I mean like, say you're somebody who parks at the supercharger, plugs it in, and then leaves it for days on end, and then you don't pay the $1,000, $10,000, however much the overage charges are for leaving it parked at a full supercharger. Then they'll probably remove it and give you a bad credit rating. But
yeah, because once your battery is full and it's no longer charging, and you're still plugged in at a supercharger, they charge you by the minute.
Oh yes,
because you're basically blocking somebody else from being able to charge at that point. So then at that point, they charge you by the minute, and if you don't pay, when the bill come due, then yeah, they'll turn you off.
Yeah, and remove your free supercharging.
Yeah.
They'll remove your regular paid supercharging too until they get their money, but then they might not give you back your free supercharging when you get straight. The title would only go through them if they're the dealer. So private party doesn't need them for anything, so they can't touch it. Yeah, absolutely, and that's part of the reason why some of these used car values haven't dropped, or haven't dropped like a competitive car.
And I believe that was one of the things that Tesla kind of said, okay, we're going to take care of the people that originally supported us, all the original owners and people that made the whole thing possible, which is if they keep their promise and keep our cars free supercharging for the life of the vehicle, it helps retain the value of our cars. So then when we do sell our cars, it retains its value.
Yep. Somebody's asking about the Tesla Model 3 key. You've got three options with the Model 3 for key. You've got your phone key, which is your Tesla app, and Bluetooth on your iOS or Android device. You've got the key card that comes with the car, and you can have that key card can be attached to multiple cars. And I think you can have 8 or 10 key cards per car. And then you've got the Tesla Accessory Key, which is very much like my Model S and Model X key. Have you got your key on you, Omar? I keep mine off because the car is right there and I don't want it.
I do. So
the Model 3 key looks just like this if you buy the accessory key, except it'll say Model 3 on the bottom of it.
Well, the Model 3, doesn't the Model 3 key look like a credit card? Or is it?
No, the accessory.
No, wait, that's the. Oh, okay.
That's the standard key.
So I have the original Model S key, which looks like a little miniature version of the car.
Yep.
It says Model S on the bottom. I guess Model 3 would say Model 3 on it. The Model X is very similar as well.
It's a little bit chunkier.
It's a little bit chunkier, just like the Model X is a little bit chunkier.
Yes.
And one of the main differences is when you press down, there's like actually little buttons inside of it. So if you press down, like I can lock the doors or unlock the doors or pressing here, and if I press over here to open the trunk, or I press and hold, it'll open the charge port, and I can open the front here. Yep. With the Model X, if you press the sides, it'll do the rear doors, right?
Yep. The little window shapes are if you click on them, it'll open the Falcon doors. And then instead of extending the handles, in our case, if you double click the roof, it will open the driver's door. Double click it again, it'll open the passenger's door. Triple click will close everything, and a single click also will close everything and lock it.
Okay.
And in Omar's case, single click will lock it, and if you've got it set to driver's only mode, a double click will unlock the driver's door. You'll see one handle pop out. You double click it again, and then all four handles will pop out. I had that done on my Model S after my 6th door handle replacement. I figured that if they don't come out, they might not break.
It may not go bad and break.
Because I was out of warranty by the time the last one went out, but it was a re-repair of one that already went out. So they said that it was because that handle was still under warranty, and I was like, well, since the others aren't, I'm not going to risk, because they did repair and redesign them, and I didn't trust that I got the redesign part.
The new design is more reliable. It's better.
It is, but
it's not going to have the same failure rate. But I get it. I understand.
I was burned.
I understand.
Yeah. So Dan is asking.
So after a certain point, they stopped doing that. So what happened is, my car is old enough that it was grandfathered in to free supercharging for the life of the car. Period. Yeah. When he got his,
they told me straight up
he got free supercharging for him for the life of that car, as long as he had that car. But if he sells it to anybody else, they don't get it. They don't get the free supercharging.
Yeah, and so in both cases, they're giving us what they promised us. And the reason that they even changed the agreement was because, and it wasn't that they changed it on me, because my Model S did and still does qualify for the new owner, and whoever owns it after him, assuming it doesn't trade it into Tesla, they had envisioned the superchargers to be only used for road trips, and that's mostly how Omar and I used it, except for when I lived at that apartment. It was designed to get you between major city pairs and keep you on the road. And instead, shortly before the Model 3 launched, a lot of people started using it because it was free. And Elon got annoyed that all these doctors and lawyers were using the free charging of his when they could charge at home, and it would cost them maybe $8 from empty, and you don't often go empty.
Well, the other thing is, as the Model 3s came out, they really needed to try to discourage people from using supercharging just for the sake of supercharging, especially if they had other means if they could charge at home.
Right.
Because you have so many more cars on the road that more cars need it.
Right. And if people of means are behaving this way over the free thing, imagine how people with less means, because that's how at the time Tesla was saying that the Model 3 was the step down car, whereas now Omar and I had this discussion with friends, especially since the Model 3 performance is right up there with the Model S in price. It's not necessarily this is the cheaper car. I mean, literally it does cost less, but it's not because it's cheaper. It's like, hey, this car's easier to park. It fits my lifestyle, blah, blah, blah. Like, you don't often see 3 Series and 7 Series cross-shopped on BMW. But at the time, they were saying, if these doctors and lawyers and other people of great means are behaving this way over $6 of electricity, how is every man going to behave when this thing comes out if we still have the free supercharging? Because, in fact, the first couple performance Model 3s also have unlimited supercharging for the life of the owner. and so to curb that behavior for folks who had other means to charge their car, they went ahead and removed that because it does cost a lot to do it at the supercharger. But
at the same time, they didn't make it so price prohibitive
that
people that need to charge there can't charge. So, you have, people that live in apartments or live in condos that don't have the ability to charge at home. So for the people that don't have the ability to charge at home, they can still use supercharging to charge. And even if they have to pay for it, it's still to the point where it makes sense because it's still going to be cheaper than filling up a gas tank. So
exactly. If you fill up, because you live in multifamily, for instance, if you fill up after peak time, because right now in some places like DC and Southern California, it'll cost you a lot more than gas to fill up during the day, but that is because they're trying to keep the stations open for travelers and for people who don't have another option. And then you get the benefit of when they're paying less for electricity, you also pay less for electricity. They don't mark it up much, even when it's on the daytime, because during the daytime, what they're finding at these heavy stations is whoever supplies the electric company for them is charging them an arm and a leg because they are hitting the grid so hard when everybody's got the AC, the office, everything running, and so they're passing that savings or cost onto the user. Dan, if I were to rent my car out or something, aside from rentals being against supercharger policy, then yes, I would qualify for that. But in the case of my Model S, it went with the car. So when I sold the car, it's now registered to Jim Smith, for instance. He still gets it. Yeah. Yeah, and see, it's stuff like that. The fact that they could have charged at home, but they didn't, was costing Tesla enough, especially during the crunch that they had. With the Model 3 launch, they almost went out of business because they were trying to increase production capacity so fast that
production hell was literally like hell for them. I'm glad they made it through that.
Yeah, it's very similar to that, Dan. Basically, in the heat of the day, the power company is not making enough electricity to keep up, so they have to either then run peaker plants, so they have to spin up some natural gas generators, or they have to then shut down some loads. Like they do their own maintenance during the day, like pumping water and stuff like that to get ready for nighttime, that they have to shut that down. Or they can request heavy users like data centers. They can say, hey, Google, we need you to disconnect from the grid and run a generator.
You just set off everybody's devices. Thanks.
Did I say? Oh, mine did it.
You said, hey, G.
I didn't mean to say, oh, you're right, I did. I apologize. My own went off too. So they could say, we need you to shut your run your generators for a minute, and we'll see you in 36 minutes. We just can't keep up, and so that's called load shedding. And they could do that of Tesla, but since Tesla is considered essential because they're people's gas station, essentially, they decline to actually slow down. But they might actually, you can see that sometimes. You could be the only car there, and you'll see your supercharger rate just slow down for nothing. It doesn't stop, but it'll slow down from peak to. That's what's happening. No. I'm not the bank. That guy owns the car. He bought it cash from the dealership. He has the title. He has the registration, everything. And it's all him. I don't own that car anymore. Like in my current car, the title belongs to the bank,
people don't do that. Like if you buy a car for somebody, here's your title. You go and re-register it under yours and retitle it under yours. It's yours. That's up to you. Or if you get a loan from the bank's going to want the title. So you'll have to give the title to the bank, and the bank will hold it. But either way, it's still going to be in your name. It's not going to be in mine.
Yep. All right. We are approaching the 2-hour mark. We've just crossed over it. So at this point, I want to thank everybody for your time. If you haven't already given us a thumbs up, I'd appreciate that. And if you're interested and you've got the means, there's a join button down below that will allow us to help with some of the costs to run this channel, such as this streaming software, web fees, and then eventually whenever we catch up, we can do new gear. Like the test box, for instance, that was given to me, but if we had to, we could have ordered it and reviewed it right here on the channel. And so I want to now roll the footage, and we'll catch you on the flip side.